Our founding fathers searched high and low. They searched domestically and they searched internationally. They searched in the oracles of our ancestors and they searched in the chronicles of the established nation to determine the best way forward to give their all for. Our founding fathers wanted the people of this nation to be holistically strong, to be equal, and to be fully participating in a nation's development, to be proud, to be patriotic in the nation's identity, to be self-reliant, to be environmentally conscious, to be respectful, to be appreciative, and when possible to adopt Papua New Guinea's ways. This vision was then incorporated into our constitutions, which then gave the legal framework for the birth of a new nation to be known as Papua New Guinea as of September 16, 1975. The Constitutional Committee recommendations were fed into national goals and directive principles to the preamble of our national constitution. These national goals and directive principles were mostly aspirational. They will have practical relevance to the people of this country only if they were used to guide the policy planning and are applied to the decision-making process. The 5 national goals and directive principles are as follows. First and foremost, integral human development. Secondly, equality and participation for everyone, don't leave anybody behind. Thirdly, enhancement of national sovereignty and self-reliance. Don't depend on handouts. Fourthly, responsible management and use of natural resources sustainably. And fifth, sharing resources in Papua New Guinea ways for the benefit of all clans, all tribes, all communities, rather than for individual benefits. Our forefathers made a declaration of independence that their first goal is for every person to be dynamically involved in the process of freeing herself and himself from every form of discrimination or oppression, so that each woman and each man will have the opportunity to develop as a whole person in relations to others. The above set of goals were to be the key pillars upon which the respective governments over the last 50 years were expected to deliver property from the subsistence economy to the modern cash economy. The vehicles to deliver the outcome of these goals were to be done through development plans and strategies. Since independence in 1975, the government embarked on developing 9 5-year strategy plans leading to the Vision 2050, which the late Grand Chief Marcus Murray launched in 2009. In my 20 years in Parliament, no planning minister had presented the outcome of those plans to the Cabinet or to the Parliament. We make plans, but we don't know what the outcome of those plans over the planning period. Under Vision 2050, Papua New Guinea was given a tall order in its development plan 2010-2030 to plan towards broad-based economic development, facilitating entrepreneurial enterprises in rural and urban Papua New Guinea with a target of creating 2 million jobs by 2030. The keystone of Vision 2050 is that within this vision, the Development Plan 2020-2030 was set that necessary building foundation to ensure that by 2050, Papua New Guinea will be smart, will be wise, will be fair, and will be a happy society. Also by 2050, Papua New Guinea will be ranked in the top 50 countries in the United Nations Human Development Index. However, Today, over the last 50 years, Papua New Guinea's various development indicators have clearly shown that despite all these development plans with billions of kina spent, Papua New Guinea's various development indicators are progressively getting worse. Its development performance indicators to date are really miserable and are in line with the low-income poverty-ridden countries. The current Papua New Guinea's 2010-2030 development strategy plan is trying to map out a path to transform Papua New Guinea from a low-income earning country into a middle-income earning country. The aim of this plan then was to achieve this target by 2015. We have now already gone through two 5-year medium-term development plans, 2010-2020, and are now entering our third medium-term development plan, 2020-2025. And we are presently sitting as a low middle-income country by the World Bank's rating. Papua New Guinea's development performance over the last 50 years has been progressively getting worse. Economic growth is insufficient to impact each household. Poor performance on social indicators compared with other Pacific Island countries. Absence of quality data or indicator framework to do the planning when you plan. Development plans are poorly resourced and implemented. Lack of fiscal discipline resulting in overspending, unproductive spending, not adhering to the planned priorities. Relying too much on mineral resource, we need to diversify and reduce economic shocks. Poor governance hampering Papua New Guinea's development, and as a result leading to a serious decline in the government basic services delivery. All of Papua New Guinea's national development strategy plans would develop not on any social or economic statistical facts, but they would develop in public servants' imaginations. Our state institutions, such as the National Statistical Office, Census Office, National Election Office responsible for election common law, Papua New Guinea Civil and Identity Registry, all lack up-to-date statistics. Papua New Guinea urgently must have current updated statistics for every government sector and every government institution. Development plans must be based on current updated statistical facts. The National Development Plan then can be developed with key performance indicators which can be monitored on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, half-yearly basis, and annual basis to ensure that the development targets have been achieved along the way over each year of the 5-year plan. We can simply say that you cannot speak the truth unless you know the facts. And if there is no updated statistical facts in the planning, then the outcome of the plans is all lies. And there lays the truth about Papua New Guinea over the last 50 years is still struggling to rise up from a low middle income country. The second challenge to Papua New Guinea's future and its prosperity lies with its public servants. The public service is the arm and the leg of the government. It is a major part of Papua New Guinea's economy. It is the interface point of interaction between government policies, government programs, and the government service delivery and government project implementation. The government workers, the public servants, who form the capacity and the channel of delivery of goods and services have been the single biggest part of problems Papua New Guinea is presently facing. They have never, over the last 50 years, contributed to the solution of these problems. Over 50 years since independence, the government allowed the public servants to grow and develop monstrous appetite in salaries, wages, and benefits without appropriate correlation to the output. The present coverage and quality of services by the government department have badly deteriorated over the last 50 years. Poor management of resources, including human resource, slow and inconsistent economic growth which cannot match the population growth, and a lack of targeted investment in developing necessary human skills and capacity in the government workforce. There is a real need for the public servants to have a sense of purpose by following clearly defined career path which leads to creating a professional working atmosphere where public servants are so amply skilled that they can positively and effectively contribute to the sustainability of our nation building. Post-independence discourse in Papua New Guinea has been about the challenges of translating the vast potential of this beautiful country into the improved standard of living for everyone. The potential for the future prosperity and the hope of people of Papua New Guinea is currently under a real threat of inefficient, incompetent, and corrupt leadership of politicians and public servants. When you have incompetent, corrupt people on top level of the administration, then it leads right down to the employment structure on the ground level. Allow me now to back up corruption statement that I just made with some of my real working life experience. I sat with my lawyer in Lae, an English lawyer, and I asked him, can I say these things? And he told me, yes, Bart, you can say anything you want to say, as long as you allow me to come and visit you in a Wimoja. So that's where I'm heading. And I hope some of you will come and visit me after I say this. This is my real life experience in my working life. I was in the Guinea port manager based in Monarch in 1975. One Friday afternoon, I got a call from the first general manager of Air Niugini, Mr. Bart Philemon, requesting that I travel with him to America. I asked him, why are we traveling to America? And he told me that he cannot tell me over the telephone because it was highly confidential. When I arrived at Jackson Airport on the way to depart for America, Mr. Conley told me that Minister for Civil Aviation Jamaki Oko wants Air Niugini to buy a Boeing 727 for its international operation. And we were to accompany him to the Boeing factory in Seattle in America. The management of Air Niugini advised Mr. Oko that Boeing 727 is unsuitable aircraft for Air Niugini's international operation, as it has a short range and it can only go to Brisbane and not to Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo. In spite of the advice to Mr. Oko still pursued his idea to commit Air Niugini to purchase a Boeing 727. When we arrived in Sydney, we changed to a Qantas aeroplane to travel to San Francisco. Whilst we were sitting in the plane, walking the plane, one black man and one white man. The white man was an American. His name was Paul Stoker, who had an interest in Hulu Island Resort in Manus, and the black man was a Papua New Guinea lawyer, like Nidi. Mr. Conley and my job was to ensure that this gentleman, together with the minister, do not commit anybody in signing any sort of document for Boeing 727 in Seattle. We suspect that the main incentive behind this aim that somebody is going to get a commission out of sales for the aircraft. When we returned to Papua New Guinea, Mr. Oko proceeded to direct Air Niugini to purchase the aircraft. During that time, Qantas, TA, and NZ collectively owned 40% of Air Niugini. And they advised the minister that under the National Airline Commission Act, the Commission recommends any capital investment to the minister, and it's not the minister to direct Air Niugini on capital investment. So talk it out. Air Niugini's first aircraft for the international operations was Boeing 707, leased from a company based in London called Entrenched. When the lease came to an end, the National Airline Commission decided to terminate the lease and enter a different lease with different airlines. Prime Minister Somare, with his two ministers, Tony Biles and Carl Steck, came up with a proposal not to terminate the lease, but renew the temporary lease for the aircraft to be used to carry cargo around the world. The management of Air Niugini undertook an economic viability assessment on the proposal and advised the politicians that the proposal was not economically viable. In spite of this advice, the politicians still pushed on with their proposals. Air Niugini management found out later that the politicians were colluding with a small airline based in New South Wales known as PNG. Air Niugini management then did their background check on PNG, and to our surprise, the name of one of the executives of PNG, his name was mentioned in New South Wales inquiry into drug trafficking in Australia. We passed on the information to the politician, but that still did not stop them from pursuing their idea. One day, one of PLA's small jet relatives from Sydney at Jackson Airport. Somehow the police drug squad knew about the aircraft arrival and had their sniffing dogs up there to check the airplane. To our surprise, the pilots got in touch with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister himself went out to tell them to follow. The submission went to Cabinet from the Prime Minister's office, and the submission came from the Prime Minister's office, not from Air Niugini as you would expect, because we were fighting against that. The second gentleman of Air Niugini, Brian Gray, the chairman of the National Airline Commission, Papua, and I, as Assistant General Manager and Secretary of the National Airline Commission, attended a cabinet meeting to fight against the proposal. Thank God, Minister of Public Service, my close friend, later Anthony Siaguru, sided with us, fought strongly with us, and we were able to convince the cabinet not to proceed with this stupid proposal. I was drawn by Air Niugini to be the first Papua New Guinea General Manager of Air Niugini. However, in 1980, the third General Manager of Air Niugini, Mr. Jerry Farsia, decided to sack the commercial manager of Air Niugini, Mr. Lewis Brockhoff. Mr. Brockhoff then went to Single Aviation Minister in Papua, and as a result, they decided to set up an inquiry into Mr. Brockhoff's sacking. Mr. Okoy was advised by the chairman of the National Airline Commission, Mr. Flora, that the appointment and the sacking of the executive management of Air Niugini are entirely responsibility of the general manager. It has nothing to do with the minister's authority. Mr. Okoy refused to accept the advice and was going to set up an inquiry into the general manager's action. As a result, the general manager plus 4 executives of Air Niugini all resigned. I decided to remain and keep on fighting the minister. The Air Niugini airline unions shut down completely for 2 or 3 days the Jackson Airport. Mr. Conley, the first general manager of Air Niugini, was requested by the government to return as an acting general manager during this time. I was asked by Mr. Conley to go and apologize to Mr. Okoy and maintain my job. I refused and told Mr. Conley that it is the minister who should apologize for interfering in the management decision, and that I have nothing to apologize. As a result, I got sacked after 7 years of dedication to the airlines. I then had 2 children under 3 years old, and one to be born in December of the same year I was sacked. I walked out of Air Niugini with a payout of 4,640 kina 83 Toya. When I got sacked from Air Niugini, I continued my volunteer role as the chairman of the organizing committee of the third South Pacific Festival of Arts, which was held in Papua New Guinea between June 30 and July 12, 1980. Over 1,600 participants from 22 Pacific Island countries, including Australia and New Zealand. At the official opening of the festival, the Prime Minister, late Sir Julius Chan, asked me to choose one of the two offers as Papua New Guinea ambassador to Brussels or the High Commissioner to London. I could not understand that I was a felon, I was sacked from Air Niugini, and here the Prime Minister is animating me to a top diplomatic posting, and I can't understand that. And I did something wrong, and I said, and here I'm being promoted. Two years after I left Air Niugini in 1980, with the change of government in 1982, when Chief Sumaka Samara again elected as Prime Minister, I received a phone call from him offering a position of the chairman of the National Land Commission. I accepted the offer on one condition, that I pick two of the commissions myself, and he agreed. So I picked Sir Harry Cowan, a businessman in life, together with Mr. Cedric C., the owner of the third level of airline operation based in life. After my departure from Air Niugini in 1980, Minister Dan Mr. Oku had appointed Ben Samuai as the chairman of the National Land Commission and George Kawasa as the first Papua New Guinea General Manager of Air Niugini. In the first full year, 1981, under their watch, Air Niugini made a loss of 8 million kina. And this was due to the fact that the Civil Aviation Minister then, Yamaki Oku, repeated the same thing that he attempted to do with the Boeing 727 in 1975. Oku forced Air Niugini to buy 3 B-7 airplanes. These aircrafts were very suitable for operation in Papua New Guinea for their short takeoff and landing, but Air Niugini at the time could not afford it. Secondly, 4 F-27 airplanes operated by Air Niugini still had 10 to 15 years life in them. In 2003, during my term as treasurer, the Internal Revenue Commission impounded 22 containers, of which 14 had been inspected by customs, and major discrepancy had been detected, including undervaluation of goods in the container, smuggling of goods, false invoicing, false declaration, duty payment evasion. The company was owned by an Asian company based in Waigani. I received a copy of a letter from the Prime Minister, Sumaka Samara, addressed to David Sote at the Internal Revenue Commission, which, to my surprise, without prior consultation with David Sote and myself, he directed that we let the 14 containers be released. After my briefing with David Sote, I asked Sumaka Samara that there was more than sufficient evidence of foul play by the company, and that I strongly supported the action of Internal Revenue Commission, and thank God we didn't pursue that further. In 2003, the late Treasurer Secretary Koei Toraka and I were requested to meet with the Prime Minister Samara in his office. When we arrived in the office, and the Chief of Staff, Joseph Alroy, is here, Joseph Alroy briefed us on the proposal to raise $200 million for the bond market in America. I was shocked at that proposal because 2002, I put in a fiscal responsibility policy for us not to borrow money. If we need to borrow money, we borrow it domestically. But the proposal was for $200 million. The interest rate was not fixed but floating at 15%. I was shocked. I was therefore asked if I could bring the submission back to my office and go through due process. want to sign it in the Prime Minister's office. After the Treasury studied the proposed submission, they advised me that we must compromise, as they feel that if we don't, it may lead to my being sacked. The proposed compromise was that we reduce the principal from 200 million to 100 million, and that the interest rate be fixed at 8%, not floating at 15%. I reluctantly agreed to the compromise, but advised that I would not sign the submission, and that Prime Minister would sign the submission, and I'm going to fight against it in Cabinet. As it turned out, Cabinet approved the submission. I then, in protest, got up whilst the Cabinet was still in session, slammed the door, and I walked out. After the end of Cabinet meeting, Sir Peter Bala and Ata Somare came to visit me in my office. I produced to them my resignation letter. Ata Somare requested that I should not send the letter again, as he would go and have a chat with the old man. He later advised me that the old man will not proceed with the proposal if I was going to resign. A few days later, I got a phone call from the old man requesting that I raise $8 million US, then equivalent to 25 million kina, to pay a certain American gentleman by the name of Michael Z. Matthew. He was the agent that was appointed to manage this proposal in New York. I then requested Sir Michael Somare to provide me with relevant documents on which I could consider making the payment as requested. The documents were never forwarded to me, and I refused to pay. Michael Z. Matthew took the government of Papua New Guinea to the International Tribunal in New York, and after I got sick in 2006, the tribunal in New York ruled in favor of the government of Papua New Guinea. So, that's my life story of the core problem that this beautiful country has been facing since day one. Now, somebody mentioned early on about me turning down the knighthood that will make me so buffalo in front of you today. And this is the reason. Oh, this is some of it. For that reason, I turned down a number, not just a number, but a number of awards. I received a letter from the then Governor General Sinkis Wotibera office in November 1986. 1986, requesting my approval for the second highest Royal Award of Civil Division of the Most Excellent of the British Empire, CBE. I thanked the Governor General and I turned down the honor. I was the chairman of the organizing committee of 9 Pacific Games held in Papua New Guinea in 1991. For the first time in the game history, Papua New Guinea won the gold medal. At the Games closing ceremony then, Sir Robin Amadio, the Prime Minister, offered to recommend me for the knighthood. I turned it down. 2005, the Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare offered me the logo award of Star of Melanesia. So I responded to Sir Michael jokingly and said, well, before I want to become Star of Melanesia, I want to become Star of Papua New Guinea. In 2023, Deputy Prime Minister John Russell and the Governor of Morgan, Wenge, opened up a new street in the center of Lai, and they named it Bart Philemon Street. I was shocked. They didn't accept me. The next day I went publicly say, hey, withdraw my name. And it's all for my experience in my life in politics, with corruption before and in politics. Corruption in Papua New Guinea is widespread and has over the last 50 years become deeply entrenched, permeating various levels of society, and has been hindering the development of this beautiful country over the last 50 years. At present, there is no guarantee that it will be minimized in managing over the next 50 years. The pervasive corruption among the leaders of Papua New Guinea undermines governance, weakens institutions, and diverts resources away from essential services, ultimately impacting the lives of our people. Here you go. to the United Nations rating, Papua New Guinea ranks among the lowest in the Human Development Index. Basic common services deteriorate to such a state that they can no longer provide the basic services they are supposed to provide. Schools, aid posts, health center, roads and bridges, airstrip maintenance, and the government, national administration and provincial administration have all broken down. I see poorly educated children. I see seriously run down public buildings. I see new headlines every day about fraud and corruption within our society. In urban centre, I see social effect of poverty expressed in terms of squalid living. In squatter settlements in which crime and violence readily increase. So where is the wealth that we are so richly blessed with going to? Clearly, much of the people's natural wealth has not filtered through to the people in terms of social development services. It is not the absence of the wealth of Papua New Guinea that we suffer from, but it is the absence of competent, uncorruptible leadership and management of that wealth that we suffer from. We must never allow ourselves to underestimate the linkages between good, competent, uncorruptible leadership and the well-being of our country. Good, uncorruptible leadership and management is not something that we can hold up as a vague notion or distant goal. It is something that is essential. It is something that we don't pursue regardless of personal cost. So to me, good, uncorruptible leadership management is not an option. It is an absolute necessity if we want to turn this beautiful country around in the next 50 years. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you all in Guinea.